Hello, everybody, virtually. I know that you're in your places, and I'm always happy to talk about music therapy and music. And I've worked with seniors for about 33 years, and so I bring a lot of my hello, Lynn. um, my experiences from that, but I'm also bringing my experiences from just life in general. And I'm going to invite you, even though we're not together, because I like interactivity. I like people to engage. And I think it's in the question here, the question part of your, that you can drop anytime that you come up with something that I've said that it kind of touches you, or you have a memory, or you have a song, just jot it in the chat, or I guess it's in the questions period, questions section. And that way we can kind of be together and share what we would normally be sharing. So if we go to the next slide, please. So I'm just giving you a little bit of my context. So I am a musician, I'm a singer, and I've been a certified music therapist for 33 years, working both for Providence Healthcare and many other long-term care homes in the Lower Mainland. I'm a vocal psychotherapist, and I'll talk a little bit about those in a second. But I want to sing my hello song to you. So in music therapy, we always start with singing and singing hello song. So even though I can't see your face, I'm sending this out to you. And you're always welcome to sing, dance, move, anything. Good evening to you. It's good to see you. Good evening to you. It's good to see you. La 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 la. I'm glad that you joined us. And how are you? How are you today? So I hope this evening finds you well, and I look forward to being with you for the next hour. So I wanted to just let people know who may not have heard of music therapy a little bit about what we do. Music therapy is the use of music by a qualified, certified music therapist to help people through music in social ways, emotionally, spiritually, physically. We work with the whole lifespan, right from prenatal to end of life. Many of us in BC work with seniors in long-term care, assisted living, community, and I've worked with all of those, an adult day center, all those. And I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about all the elements of music and how music can help all of us. So as we go through this, it might go, yeah, I do that, or oh, I've heard that, or I remember my mom did that. And that's the kind of things you could write in the questions, and that way we can kind of be together a little bit more. I'm also vocal psychotherapist trained, which is a specialized 2-year training and advanced training to how to use voice and singing as a therapeutic tool. And that comes into play a lot in my work because most people love to sing, even if they're not trained singers. A lot of people wanted to sing more than they ever did, and I always invite them because I really believe, and these are two of my statements from my master's thesis in 1999 and then my PhD dissertation in 2014, that our voice is as unique as our DNA, as our face, and as our name. Just like you are a unique being, so is your voice. And our voice is also the audible expression of our own unique self, our essential self. And the music and the singing that comes from inside of you is unique to you, is your expression in the world, self-expression in the world. And so I just invite you in your own world, and however that looks in the future, to just own that and to have music and singing as a self-expression tool and as something that's a birthright for you. Okay, we can go to the next slide, please. So tonight's presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about ways that music connects us to our lives and brings wellness throughout our lifespan. And I've sort of chunked our life into 3. So the early years of birth, infancy, and childhood, teen and adult, young adult years, and then older adult and adult years. And I'll talk about some of the ways that we So you can think about your own life, or maybe if you're a mother, father, parent, grandparent, you have people in your life in these age groups, and you can sort of think about how that is for them. And you can offer anything that you want, and we'll have a little bit of time at the end, hopefully, for Q&A. So the next slide, please. Okay. So music has the ability to do many things in our life, and you probably know this from your own experience. And a lot of it is related to the elements of music. So elements of music are things like rhythm and melody and harmony and lyrics and tone and timbre. And we respond to those in certain ways that actually is the neurologists have done a lot of studies that actually are pretty consistent. And then there's the unique ways that we also engage with music because of who we are, what our background is, and where we live. So physically, rhythm is the big element here. That when you hear a drumming beat, when you hear a dance beat, when you hear a very enticing piece of music that you want to move, your toe taps. And that's a very, very, that's a very, very primal piece of music. People I've noted in my work, I've seen people who are in very, very late stages of dementia, who really can't speak anymore, who maybe can't engage in the usual ways, but they can still tap their toes, or they can move a part of their body. And it's a part of our self-expression to express ourselves physically. It's also a stimulative. Rhythm is stimulating. So what we often do in music therapy is we start and we meet people where they're at. And if someone is just waking up from a sleep, I'm not going to blast them with a high energy physical rhythm, but I would meet them where they're at in the tempo and in the way that they are. And then we would slowly build that into a rhythm that actually matches their own life right now. We also use, there's a neurologic music therapy that uses physical gait training and speech to regain speech, especially after a stroke. And that's a specialized kind of neurologic music therapy is another specialized area of music therapy. And that's a pretty miraculous thing when people can actually, it is neurological, and I don't have all the information about that, but if the stroke has been in the left side of the brain, then speech is affected. But sometimes, because music lives all over the brain, people can still sing, and they can still talk or sing their way to communication. So that's a really wonderful way that music sometimes is a gift. Okay. So emotionally, I'll bet that every one of you has some experience of where you've connected to a song, or a song has influenced you in your life. Songs have associations with the people that we were with, the situation where we were, how we felt. And there's kind of a memory window that certain songs, if you hear that song out of context years and years later, it will bring you back to that same place. And the more that you have a song that you've heard or sang, it grooves into your memory more, and it will be more available more quickly. So an example might be if your mother always sang around the kitchen a certain song, then that song's going to be available to you for long, long, long into your life as a reminder of your mother, a connection to her, maybe as she's cooking or as she's doing things in the house. And it will not only have a physical kind of, you'll be able to visualize her, but also a feeling, that love that you had for her. Songs and music also are very important in our memories as we go through life, and we'll talk about that a little bit here. And also for rituals, they're all attached to the major rituals of our life, the milestones of our life, especially in the dating years, as we find our life partners and marry, as we reach milestones like graduations or anniversaries, and they're connected to those, and those become, again, part of the soundtrack of our life. throughout the rest of our life. Pain and pleasure. So I wanted to put this in because I think sometimes people feel and talk about music as always being a positive thing, and it can be, and it often is, but it also can remind us of painful times. So for instance, when my grandmother died and I sang at her funeral, I've sang the same song at other places, but that hymn that I sang brings me back to that place. And that's a bit of a painful place, although it also reminds me of her and brings her back in my own memory. So it has sometimes a double meaning and a double association. And, you know, music is just heartfelt. Like we feel things when we hear music, and we're motivated by music to engage with life in different ways than without music. And that's why when you're at the gym, that's why they play music. It motivates us. So emotionally is a really important part of our musical engagement. So spiritually, for those of us that are religious or have a spiritual expression, that can be a major way that we engage with our faith. We might experience awe. I know I've traveled around the world and have seen such amazing things, and often it's enhanced by music. When I was in Egypt many years ago, I went to a light show, and they had huge lit up the pyramids, and they had a whole story, and the music was very dramatic, and I can still recall what that feels like because the music ingrained it in my memory. Ceremony is also a really important part. Music, meditation, relaxation that we use music for. And we also can use music in the dying process. When we are at the end of life and we play music that is important to us, that's meaningful to us, that matches where we are, and that helps us process what that part of our life is about. And then the last piece is socially. So when and I'll talk about this as the next few slides come, with all the ways that social happens, being with others, the importance of a peer group, especially when we're young, meeting our life partners, the nostalgia that music brings, and the connection with our communities. You know, everything goes better with music, and music is often involved in a lot of community engagement. All right, so if I could have the next slide, please. All right, so we're just going to start with birth, infancy, and childhood. For some of us, that's a long time ago. And some of you may have lucky enough to have young ones in your life right now, either, you know, children or grandchildren or friends. So there is music-assisted pregnancy and labor delivery that music therapists do. And something that's just interesting is that because hearing is the first sense to come and the last sense to leave us before we die, infants hear their mother in the womb, and they become used to her voice, and they become used to the familiar sounds. Now, they can't understand the language. They don't know what it means, but they understand the tone and the feeling and what she sounds like to them. And so after after women have babies, often they use the same kind of music in utero as they do after, to help people, to help the baby soothe and nurture them. Children, of course, use sound all the time. They vroom, vroom, vroom with the trucks in their, I have lots of brothers, so that's my reference to a lot of that. And they socialize using sound. They laugh and they call out and they pretend, and there's imagination and creativity. Let's see, sorry, just gonna find my notes here. And also music in young children can help verbal and nonverbal communication. A lot of my colleagues who work with young children use music to help people learn language. If people are moving here from another country and have English as a second language, that's a way. I've worked with many adults who came, and the way they learned English was to sing songs. And so that's a way that we can use music as well, is just to enjoy the whole learning process of learning a language or learning and maintaining our own communication. And I would say during this time, especially during childhood, that a lot of children start to play active music themselves. They have taken piano lessons, or they have choir in school, or band, or that kind of thing. And they use it for self-expression. They use it for socialization. They use it for an identity. Oh, I'm a singer. Oh, I play in the band. And then they also use it for improved movement and motor control. All right, so let me just see where we are. If I could have the next slide, please. All right. So in the teen and young adult years, music promotes a sense of connection and feeling understood and being met. They identify with certain artists, certain songs, messages, often things that are not common and not popular with their parents. And they have a broad accessibility of music through social media and recorded music through YouTube or GarageBand. More so now in the last 20 to 25 years than ever before. I mean, even the fact that we're doing this presentation tonight over a virtual platform allows us to connect with each other, allows us to be here. Especially in the teen years, the identity and the peer group influence is really important. So a lot of my colleagues that work with teens really work with music as a positive influence, as a way of connecting, like songwriting, for instance, or playing certain songs that the teens might really enjoy and like. It's also an expression of sexuality and the rituals of life, like meeting people, dating, figuring out how to be who you are. Music supports movement and motor control, especially during puberty when we're all a little awkward and learning how to work with our bodies. Music reduces stress, anxiety, and pain, and we can also use it for relaxation and a stronger connection with ourselves. And in those years, for many of us, music becomes really important, not only in listening and connecting with our friends, but also to play guitars, or play in a band, or sing in a choir. And that gives us community. Especially, I did both my master's thesis and my PhD dissertation on singing, because that's a really important part of my life. And lots of research talks about how singing brings us together. And I know when we've been lucky enough to be at Van Dusen Gardens, Mary Lou, we've often had comments of, oh, we should have a Providence choir from these sessions. People want to connect. They want to be together, and singing is a beautiful part. Having been in choirs for my whole life and still in choirs and leading choirs, this last year has been one of the most challenging years because we're not singing together. And some of us are on Zoom and online, and that's a way to keep connected, but you're never in the same room. There's something about singing together in the same room with people, songs that you know and love, and you hear voices around you, you feel the vibrations coming through your body. It brings and builds community more than anything I know of. And lots of people, that's why they love choir. It's also why people sometimes, there's an add-on of the music in church settings or in religious settings, because people really enjoy singing together and praise and worshiping together, and music is just that wonderful way of doing that. Music's very creative. You can write music, you can dance to it, you can change words and do parodies. There's lots of ways that you can use music creatively. And again, socialization and identity, and then career choices. A lot of us got our careers choice started in this time period of our life. I didn't know I was going to be a music therapist because it didn't exist when I was a teenager and a young adult, but thank goodness it does, because I found out in my early 30s about it and have trained. And then I trained at Kaplan University, which is the first and oldest program in Canada. There's now 6 programs across Canada, but and in about 90 countries of the world. So let's see. Oh yeah. So one of the things in this year or in this time period is often a certain song. I'd be interested if people felt open to sharing in the question period. What songs do you remember were really important to you during your teen years or your young adult years? And it could be a song that you learned from school, or it could be a song that you heard on the radio, or maybe you bought records. In those days when I was there, we bought records, 45s and 33s. And now, of course, it's, you know, all digital music, and we've gone through the different kinds of platforms. I'm going to sing a part of a song that I remember being really important to me when I graduated from university. I'm from Alberta, and I graduated from University of Calgary in 1975, 76. And John Denver wrote a song at that time called Looking for Space. And it became like a mantra to me. It spoke to me of words and meanings that I could not articulate because I wasn't aware of how I was feeling. I just know that this song spoke my truth. And so I'm just going to sing a little bit of it. It may not be a song you know. It's not one of his most popular, but you can listen to the words and maybe it'll speak to you in some ways of remembering when we were looking for ourselves, looking to feel out who we are. It's called Looking for Space. On the road of experience, trying to find my own way. Sometimes I wish that I could fly away. When I think that I'm moving there, suddenly things stand still. I'm afraid because I think they always will. And I'm looking for space and to find out who I am. And I'm looking to know and understand. It's a sweet, sweet dream. Sometimes I'm almost there. Sometimes I fly like an eagle, and sometimes I weep in despair. On the road of experience, joining the living day. If there's an answer, it's just that it's just that way. When you're looking for space and to find out who you are, you're looking to try and reach the stars. It's a sweet, sweet, sweet dream. Sometimes I'm almost there. Sometimes I fly like an eagle, and sometimes I weep in despair. Sometimes I fly like an eagle, like an eagle. I go flying high. Thank you. So that was my song when I was 21. I see some people have shared. Yes, Bridge Over Troubled Water, wonderful song. High school learning, grade 5. Lots and lots of music in our life. And it's just a wonderful thing to reflect back on that. You know, songs have been with us as friends for our whole life. And sometimes they've saved us in times, and sometimes they've expressed for us. I am so grateful for music in my life. It's given me my career, which I love. It's given me so many friends and connections throughout my life. And now I'm able to share music for and with other people to help them in their life. And that's just a real blessing. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the part that I'll probably spend a little bit of time on is this part, which is the biggest chunk of our life when we're an adult and older adult. Now, I don't know where you think maybe adult and older adult, where it goes and where it stops and where it starts. What I've noticed in my work with seniors, mostly with chronic illnesses like dementia, but also people with just life challenges. We all have challenges. Is that a really important thing to know is that we have many kinds of memory. And so the main part of our memory is remembering, oh, I have to be here at 7 o'clock tonight to do this presentation. I remember how to drive a car. I remember how to do the things that I need to do. And there's also the memory of, what did I have for breakfast? Oh yeah, and I'm going to be, in the future, I'm going to be doing this. So there's all kinds of ways that our memory functions and helps us. The beautiful part of music is that musical memory is all over the brain and it does not get damaged. I have seen people have musical memory, remember songs, remember and sing them actually late into a dementia process. And so often that gives them access to the memories that attach to those songs, the associations and the feelings and the people. I remember I worked with a woman years ago, and she was probably 85, around 85, and she had a hymn in the garden that her mother had sang to her all through her life. And whenever she sang that song, she still cried. And it still reminded her of her mother, and she talked about her mother. But in that time, if I'd asked her outside of that, without that song, she probably couldn't have accessed the same memory. But when we sang in the garden and she had feelings and emotions, it really brought her mother to her again. And she could really talk about her and give memories. Feelings are really important to anchor memories. And those feelings that we're anchored in feelings and have feelings, they're the ones that we maintain long into our life. I often say that when we lose the ability to do the normal things that we would hope, like speak and engage, that music stays well and whole. That's a blessing for us. We can remember songs, we can move to music even if we can't sing, and even if we can't overtly express ourselves in some way, music can play inside our head. I never assume with the people that I work with that they're not having some sort of experience inside. So the music is a stimulative to their memories and to their feelings, but it also could be, who knows what they're imagining. As I talked about before, music maintains social connections and relationships, which are really important. We've really seen that the last year with being home a lot and being alone and isolated, to find ways to connect with people and to keep connected. I sing in the Universal Gospel Choir here in Vancouver, and we've been having weekly rehearsals on Zoom for the last year, 14 months. And I'm here in my home muted because we can't sing together because of the delay in the platform. But I still feel a part of our choir. And we've done virtual choir projects where we've recorded at home and then it gets, beautifully, magically put together, where we can feel like we're singing together. And I know that many people sing together in choirs or in groups and maintain that relationship through there. There's also really important importance of music that's cultural or religious or perhaps family music. So you might think about in your life and in the life of the people that you're living with, your family and other friends, where did they live? What kind of cultural experience did they have? And that could be that they were born in Ireland or Italy or over in Asia. Those songs and that music will become a part of the soundtrack of their life for their whole life. Now, I don't speak another language very well, but I do have a smattering of Chinese songs and European languages. And every time when someone has reverted back to their original language, because they often lose their English if it was a second language, when I sang, the other day I was working with someone and I sang Italian songs because he just moved into a nursing home. He was struggling very much to be there. And as soon as I sang O Sole Mio or Santa Lucia, he just beamed and he became present and he became relational, and he wasn't telling me that he didn't want to go. He wanted to go home. He was very much there with me. And so our cultural music really brings us, and that could be for me. I grew up on a farm in Alberta, so cultural music for me is country and Western, because that's what I grew up with, as well as classical, because my mom played piano and she introduced me to classical music. For many of you, religious music or spiritual music that you've either grown up with or that you continue to be a part of is really a foundation of your life. So it can bring comfortability, it can bring confidence, it can bring solidity. This last year, when we've not been certain about very many things, I could play my music and I would know that it was certain, that I knew what my connection to it was. So if you have a playlist that you either create or could create, that's a really important thing to be able to have and share with people that will be able to find those songs and play the songs. And then you might think about family music. So every family probably has some music, and maybe it was that, I don't know, maybe grandma liked to make up words to silly songs and she sang them around the kitchen. Or my dad whistled when he was working out on the farm, and I have really strong memories of that, of the whistling songs. Those are also really a part of our soundtrack, and they will become important and be important throughout our life. And often there's an intergenerational aspect. So grandpa whistles a certain tune and dad learns it, and then grandson learns it, and it becomes this tie throughout the family. And sometimes there's kind of laughter and kind of fun around it, and sometimes it's serious music. So I think that music also helps us address the concerns of aging, like isolation, building of community, having of community, physical and emotional well-being, and singing. I just want to put a plug in for singing, because the more that you can sing, the more that you're going to be able to maintain your lung capacity and breathing. And that gives you energy, gives you, just all the things that we need that for. And music also reduces stress and anxiety and pain. A lot of the places that I use music is to meet and match someone. So music can distract easily to help us go somewhere else. If you listen to music and you're, I don't know, maybe you're upset or you're in pain or something, and you listen to a song that can take you there, take you someplace else and distract you from the pain. If we're stressed, and I use music all the time for stress in terms of playing for myself and singing, which is ideal, but also you can listen to it or move to it or be with people in that. And as I mentioned, it can also accompany us in the dying process. We use a lot of improvisation in our work in music therapy, and it's definitely a beautiful thing to be able to be with someone who can no longer talk with us, but because hearing is the last sense to go, they still can hear us. And usually the breath is the only thing that I can see at that point. And so I do a vocal improvisation that matches the breathing, and or I sing a song that would match the tempo of the breathing. And my experience over and over and over again is that people, and they call it entrainment, where they join where I am, and I've matched them, and it's a bit of a dance back and forth. So if you have someone that's upset or anxious or struggling, my experience is that words don't often help, but music might. And whether that's you singing something or you playing something or a recording that is, easily will capture that attention and be able to bring the person to a different place. Sometimes we need help from ourselves in those ways. Let's see. Yeah, let's have the next slide, please. So this is a song that I'm going to share with you. It's from the Threshold Choir songbook. You may not have heard of them. They were started in the US by a music therapist many years ago, and they're usually a small group of 4 people that come and sing at bedside when people are ill or dying. And it's usually a cappella music, and it's just very soothing and very comforting. And one of my beliefs is that I am singing and speaking and interacting with the well whole person inside of somebody, and they can be in a very physically unhealthy place, but they're still well and whole inside, and they have lived a good long life, and they still have all of those memories and things inside. We just have to find a way to interact with them. So I'm going to sing this to you, and what I would invite you to do is just let the song come to you. Just embrace it, bring it into your life, bring it into yourself, believe it, because you are loved, deeply loved by many people in your life. And I'll sing it through twice. And if you're welcome, if you feel that you get the melody and you want to sing along at home, please feel free to. Sorry, wrong key. Here we go. You are loved, deeply loved. You are a well-cherished garden. You are loved, deeply loved. You are a treasured child. All your life, all your days, from the very first moment of being, you've been loved, deeply loved. You are loved. You are loved, deeply loved. You are a well-cherished garden. You are loved, deeply loved. You are a treasured child. All your life, all your days, from the very first moment of being, you've been loved, deeply loved. You are loved, deeply loved. You are loved, deeply loved. You are loved. Just take a moment and just take that in. Let that be with you. Feel the love in your heart that you have for others and that people have for you. I think sometimes that's all life's about, is to love and be loved. And music is such a beautiful way of expressing that, either in person or over the recording or over the phone. Okay. So we're just winding down to the last couple of slides. I wanted to just, if you haven't heard of Daniel Levitan, this might be of interest to you if any of what I've talked about tonight, especially in the neurological part. He's a neuroscientist and a musician and an author. He lives in Montreal. He's at McGill University. And these are some of his books. This is Your Brain on Music he wrote a few years ago. And some of it's a little dense, but it's very interesting reading about how music affects us, how it affects our brain and our neurology. His 2 more recent books, and I haven't read The Changing Mind, but Successful Aging is one I'm working on right now, I'm reading right now. He's a very positive influence, and I love his way of seeing things in a way that helps us to live a better life. So I just encourage you, if you're interested and you want to read a little bit more about the influence of both music and also successful aging, because I think that's what all of us want, then I would encourage you to check out Daniel Levitan. And my last couple slides. These are my master's thesis and my PhD. If you're interested at all, my dissertation is actually electronic, and it's available at the Antioch University's reserve site. And also, the next slide will have my email, and if you're interested in anything, you can email me. To find out more information about music therapy, you can check out www.mtbc.com, the Music Therapy Association of BC. Yeah, so I just want to thank you for coming tonight, and thanks to Mary Lou and Providence for inviting me again.